centuries. Remember me for centuries. I can't stop till the whole world knows my name, 'cause I was only born inside my dreams. I'm taking down for me as long as there's a light. My shadow's over you, 'cause I am the opposite of amnesia. And you're a cherry blossom, you're about to bloom. You look so pretty, but you're gone so soon. Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me. Remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries. We've been here forever, and here's the frozen fruit. I could scream forever. We are the poison you. Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me. Remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries.
Hot and dangerous. If you're one of us, then roll with us, 'cause we make the hipsters fall in love when we got our hot pants on and up. And yes, of course we does. We run in this town just like a club. And no, you don't want to mess with us. Got Jesus on my necklace. Got that glitter on my eyes. Stockings ripped all up the side. Looking sick and sexified. So let's go, let's go. Tonight we're going hard, 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 hard. Just like the world is art, 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 ours. We're tearing it apart, 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 apart. You know we're superstars. We are who we are. We're dancing like we're dumb, 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 dumb. Our bodies go numb, 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 numb. We'll be forever young, 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 young. You know we're superstars. We are who we are. DJ, turn it up. It's about damn time to live it up. I'm so sick of being so serious. It's making my brain delirious. I'm just talking true. I'm telling you about the shit we do. We're selling our clothes, sleeping in cars, dressing it down, hitting on dudes hard. Got that glitter on my eyes. Stockings ripped all up the side. Looking sick and sexified. So let's go, let's go. Tonight we're going hard, 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 hard. Just like the world is art, 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 ours. We're tearing it apart, 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 apart. You know we're superstars. We are who we are. We're dancing like we're dumb, 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 dumb. Our bodies go numb, 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 numb. We'll be forever young, 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 young. You know we're superstars. We are who we are. DJ, turn it up, 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 up. DJ, turn it up, 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 up.
DJ, turn it up, 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 up.
DJ, turn it up, 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 up.
ain't gotta worry, it's an open invitation. I'll be sitting right here real patient. All day, all night, I'll be waiting, stand by. Can't stop because I love it. Hate the way I love you all day, all night. Maybe I'm addicted for life, no lie. I'm not too shy to show I love you. I got no regrets. I love you much too hide you. This love ain't finished yet. This love ain't finished yet. So baby, whenever you're ready, when you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, when you're ready, come and get it. You got the kind of love that I want, let me get that. Baby, once I get it, I'm yours, no take back. Gonna love you for life, I ain't leaving your side. Even if you knock it, ain't no way to stop it. Forever you're mine, baby, I'm addicted, no lie, no lie. I'm not too shy to show I love you. I got no regrets. So baby, whenever you're ready, when you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, when you're ready, come and get it. This love will be the death of me, but I know I'll die happily. Oh no, oh no, oh no, because you love me so. Yeah! When you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, come and get it. Come and get it. Yeah, yeah. When you're ready, when you're ready, come and get it. When you're ready, come and get it. I can fly, and oh, I'm alive, and I'm loving every second, minute, hour, bigger, better, stronger, power. I got that power. I got that power. I got that power. Power, power, power. They call me Willie, stay so cool, I'm chilly. I done made that melee, on my way to that Bentley. Used to have a piggy bank, but now I got that bigger bank. Who cares what the haters say? They hate on me cause I'm doing what they can. I stay on that hustle, I flex that mental muscle. Hate to bust your bubble, I'm on that other level. I'ma take it higher and higher, higher and higher. I stay in fire, tire, keep burning like that fire. fly, I can fly, I can fly. Oh, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And I'm loving every second, minute, hour, bigger, better, stronger, power. I got that power. I got that power. I got that power, 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 power. Yes, y'all. Feeling funky fresh, y'all. Work to be the best, y'all. Work good under pressure, y'all. Been through all that stress, y'all. Get this off my chest, y'all. Made it out them projects with this project that's progress, y'all. I did it for my mama. I told her when I was younger that I'ma be that number one. Yep, I'll be that number one. I take it higher and higher, higher and higher. I stay on fire, tire. Keep burning like that fire. Fire. Whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So I'ma get stronger. Coming like a battering, battering. I'm knocking down the door again, door again. Coming like a battering, battering. I'm knocking down the door again, door again. Oh, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. I can fly, I can fly, I can fly. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And I'm loving every second, minute, hour, bigger, better, stronger, power. I got that power. I got that power. I got that power, 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 power. And I'm loving every second, minute, hour, bigger, better, stronger, power. And I'm loving every second, minute, hour, bigger, better, stronger, power.
Hello, hello. Oh my gosh. It's free. It's the finale. I was kind of feeling a bit nostalgic about this earlier, and I was like, you know what? This is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. And if you are just joining us for the first time, I urge you to go back and watch the replays. They're all live on YouTube. You can use the same links and access them and watch the incredible stories unfold from the speakers that we've had so far. 10 speakers have come, 5 are yet to come tonight. And we are starting off with a bang. Now we have my beautiful friend, Miss Desiree Ouzil, joining us. Now, let me introduce Desiree because this bio is not going to give her any justice at all. But let's do it anyway. So Desiree is a spiritual mentor and soul remembrance channel here to help you remember who the fuck you are while you infinitely expand your mastery and activate your cosmic codes so you can reclaim and liberate your birthright of infinite pleasure, wealth, and spaciousness. Now, we do need to just give a little warning that today's talk will include references and stories around sexual abuse and molestation. It won't last for long, but it's just important for you to know. So just bear that in mind. And if that's too much for you, I recommend that you switch off and come back in half an hour's time. That's absolutely fine. But if you can stick around, it is going to be worth it. Miss Des, hello.
Hi, babe. I was playing with backstage. I don't know if you saw me, but I was having fun.
I am so excited to have you with us, and I am going to hand the stage right over to you now.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, you guys. My pockets are crazy today. This is so typical Des. Like, my pockets are just like, hey, y'all, we're here. I'm Des. Like Claire just said, I go by Des in most of my spaces, and so feel free to call me that. And I'm just going to hop right in today because I don't want to waste any of our time and I want to get to the good stuff. 4th, 1992. I'm a Cancer baby. And really, my story starts from birth. So I have to start at birth because even the way I came into the world was a little different. I came in as a leader. And this has been my path since I was a child. And what that opens us to is being vulnerable, being real, being raw. So I came in, I didn't cry. I was smiling actually. And I looked straight at my dad in the eye, he said. And he said that I didn't cry until I was spanked. I just came into the world like wide-eyed and open, as if I had been here before. And I was a really happy baby from what I've been told. I started talking before I was 1 year old. I started walking before I was 9 months old. I was ready to go, you guys. I came in roaring, ready to go. I knew I had some stuff to do, and I knew I had to get moving if I was going to do it. And around 1.5 years old, I would later find out in my life, like way later, as in like just 2.5 years ago, not even 2 years ago, actually, almost to the date. I would find out that when I was 1.5 years old, my adopted grandfather, who we don't really have a relationship with, I say grandfather because I want to give you guys a point of reference. He molested my not sister, cousin, who's the same age, like a sister, my cousin and I. It went on for probably a few months because we were living with him for a few months. And so I just have enough of a memory to know that it happened. And my body told me that it happened. And the reason this is important is because the work I do plays it encompasses such a large amount of our sexuality. I use a lot of Tantra. And so I'm going to reference sexuality a lot throughout this talk. I just want you to understand that it's going somewhere. So then when I was about 3 years old, my dad had his an abusive person as well. She abused me in all the possible ways, sexually as well. Which I wouldn't find out until again later in my life. I was 20 or 21 when I finally recuperated and recalibrated that memory. And a lot of my life, I bounced between very extreme circumstances. So I got really good at living in between polar opposites because not only were my parents divorced, so not only did I have 2 homes and 2 parents and 2 separate homes with 2 different sets of rules, but I had 2 step parents. I had a stepdad and a stepmom. I got really lucky with 2 sets of parents. But I got really fucking good at shape-shifting. I got really fucking good at wearing some masks. I got really fucking good at figuring out who could and couldn't take what I had to say, who could and couldn't hold me. I got really good at actually understanding who couldn't hold me before they knew that they couldn't hold me, so that I never went there, right? It's like I'm not even going to waste my time trying to go there, trying to express myself, trying to get deep and vulnerable and real and raw with you if I know you can't hold me. And this is a very special flavor of suppression because even in all of this, I was making big moves. I made moves in my life from a very young age that didn't make sense to people. And I always wanted to lead. I was a little restricted by my parents to do so, of course, as we all are. But once I was 16, I made the choice to live with my mother, and my dad let me go. And it was the first choice I made for myself, like purely for myself. It was the first choice I ever had that was consciously created. And I stepped into a reality that was different than anything I had ever known. I didn't even want to go to Alaska. I knew what I was going to, okay? I went to Fairbanks, Alaska, so I moved to a place that has like 24 hours of night time for most of the winter. And I struggled with depression and anxiety most of my life, so it wasn't necessarily the ideal place for me to be going. But I knew that I had to get out of my dad's home because he and my stepmom were having a divorce, and it was a nasty divorce, and they hadn't even started the process yet, and I could feel it. So my intuition said, Desiree, fight for your life. Whatever you have to do to get out of here. because you've experienced enough. And I would go on to have, makes me emotional. I haven't talked about this one in a long time. I would go on to have so many more of these like moments, these moments where God was talking to me. And when I say talking to me, I don't mean that it was like this booming voice outside of me. I mean, God came into my body, into my ears. He could hear me. They could hear me while I could hear him, them, her, right? So this was one of the first moments that I consciously remember choosing God. I chose God. I chose to trust God and myself. And I moved to Alaska and I was miserable. I'm not even going to play like it was great. You guys, I figured everything out. Later, I figured everything out. Sure. But I absolutely was miserable. And this is the suppression part, right? I had been suppressing my emotions so much my entire life. And the reason it makes me emotional is because I'm actually like releasing a layer of this right now as we speak. I'm releasing a layer of this that has to do with being in a 10-year relationship. And I'm seeing how these patterns were still alive there, right? And I'm literally breaking them down with my own healers right now. Like, I'm like, oh my God. like my bestie is one of my healers. I think she might be here. If she's not, shout out bestie. I have a tantric coach and a wonderful mentor that I work with in my business who's also a healer. She don't know it yet. She don't know soon. And so I say all of that to say, because I'm a healer doesn't mean that I don't value. If anything, I value healing the most, right? I value the people who can hold that space the most. And because I didn't have those people, I chose to be one of them. And I already knew I was, but like I decided at a young age. And so because of that, I went through a lot of counseling very early in my life. This would be like my 4th or 5th stint in counseling when I moved to Alaska. I was in counseling for 4 years, 2 times a week. And this is where I started to collect some really early childhood trauma memories that I had. Again, you guys, I'm so fucking good at masking and suppressing. It was just so deep in my body. And at this point in time, I still hadn't found embodiment or like movement, right? I was still relying on talk therapy. That's all we know. So fast forward through my early 20s. I have to play it out a little bit for you guys. Late teens, early 20s was like my first love, my first breakup. Heads up, trigger warning here, as far as loss goes as well. I lost my grandmother and another close cousin within the same year. And I also miscarried a child within these 6 years that I was living in Alaska. I also was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I also ended up not graduating from college because of this autoimmune disease keeping me in the hospital and in and out. So I ended up having to just like get a certificate, get a job. Like it was kind of like one of those things where it was just like I had been sick for so long that I had lost a part of my life, actually. And I was sick for almost a year, and it was a significant year of graduating from college. So when I moved from Alaska, I had decided with my therapist, I was like, you know what? Because before I moved, I was dating a lot. I went through a little hoe phase. Okay, we all go through it. We all go through it, babe. So you know what I'm talking about. I had a little fun after that breakup because I was like, I don't need this shit. And then I left. I left Alaska. I was like, cool, I'm out. It was easy to cut ties, right? Because I left. I moved, literally, physically moved my body. And then landed in Washington State. And during this time of movement, we're driving. We've been gone from Alaska for maybe 2 days. We're in Canada somewhere. And I get a phone notification, almost said a voice note, a phone notification that my checking account balance is $2.01. And I had saved over $5,000 before leaving Alaska to go live on my own. This was money that I worked really hard to earn. I got my certificate in dental assisting. So I had been dental assisting for a whole year. And I specifically set up a savings plan. I let my mom help me, which at that point in time, my mother and I had the worst, that was like the worst time in our relationship. And I let her help me. Okay. So like I was really being very purposeful and intentional with that money. And I knew what it was for. It was going to set me free, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to move out of my parents' house. I can finally stop suppressing myself. Well, had my identity stolen and all of my money taken. And because it took so long to come back to me, and because they got a hold of my social security number and like my date of birth, and they had a copy of my birth certificate somehow, you guys, it was like nuts. It was like the kind of identity theft that like somebody would have to be close to you to do. And yet these people were like across the world somewhere, right? So again, God said, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep choosing yourself? Will you choose yourself again? Because the option was to go live with my friend and kind of bum off of her until I saved up enough money, or to go live with my dad, who had retired in Washington State from the Army, and just let him hold me for a couple of months while I got my shit back together. And so I did that. And it was so hard because you guys know at 22, 23 years old, like that ego doesn't want anybody to tell her what to do, right? It's like I'm like this close to freedom. I can taste it. I can feel it. My body's like screaming, please set me free. Not yet. Not yet. Whew. So then I live with my dad for a little bit. I get a job. I save up some money. I get my own apartment. And I made this choice before leaving Alaska that I was going to be celibate when I got wherever I was going. I was like, I'm not going to date anybody for a long time. I'm not even going to look. I'm going to get to know myself. Because my entire life, I was also an older sibling, the eldest daughter of many children. In a home, in one of the homes, foster children came in and out a lot. So I was the stabilizer as well, right? Like I was the one in charge. I was the extra parent. And when we adopted these babies, I actually was the extra parent. I was changing diapers. I became a mother at like 11 years old. So I didn't need children, right? Okay. Like one thing I made sure was like, I didn't need children because I had exposure to that early. And I knew that it came with extra responsibility and that I had to have the space and love for them. And I didn't have the space and love for myself. So I got to know myself. And this 2 years was the most important 2 years of my life. I will tell you that. Even with everything I've done since then, I know that if I hadn't chosen to sit by myself, with myself for 2 years straight without any physical, even touch, you guys, when I say I went completely monk, like I didn't even look at men like that. For 2 years of my life, I was committed to myself. Getting to know him right at 23, actually just after I had turned 23, 22. Sorry, guys. Anyways, doesn't matter. Early 20s, right? I meet my ex. We're together for 10 years, and we do all the things that you do in your 20s together. We die a lot. We heal our inner child together a little bit. I did deeper healing than he was able to, and that's part of why we had to break up. We had fun together. We got to know ourselves independently of each other, but together, right? In this relationship. We conquered a lot of life together, a lot of stuff that people don't make it through for whatever reason, right? Because they choose not to, or because they just surrender to life and again start to suppress things. We were able to make it through a lot of hard things together. And as much love and appreciation and honesty and integrity we built into that relationship, it will never feel like enough when you are suppressing yourself. And so I'm sharing this with you guys because it's very real and raw. It's very fresh as well. But in this relationship, I was held by a man who was able to meet his own masculine deeply enough that I was able to heal some very significant parts of myself. I was able to do some really deep soul searching about what I wanted out of life, what I wanted out of a partner, what I wanted out of myself, what I actually desired, right? And it was like one of those things where like I hadn't had a mentor yet, but this was like mentorship style visioning, you guys. You know what I'm talking about. Because most what we want, right? And then when we get really real about what we want, and then we start following that path, and then my life takes me through so many twists and turns of being an online entrepreneur and learning myself in that way. I started as a health and fitness coach. Obviously, the work continued, and so I just followed my soul's path, right? My soul led me. I said, take me. I got to a point in 2018 where I was in a suicidal psychosis, and I said, take me. I'm ready. Because God said to me that I wasn't done yet, and I said, I don't know where else to go. But if I'm not done, take me. Show me. I'm ready. And he did. And it continued to. I'm embodied. I feel God in my DNA. So at the end of 2022, my cousin came to me and said, hey, I found some information. And I don't know if you remember this, but I want to share it with you. And she shares with me a memory that she's recaptured from early in our childhood that I already told you about. So I don't need to recap it. But as she's sharing the imagery, the hairs on my body start to stand up. My root chakra, my hips start to shake. My psoas starts to quiver. I start to sweat and also get cold at the same time. I have a full-on animal fear reaction to the information that she's giving me. And in that moment, I know that I don't need to remember because my body remembers. And in that moment, I also knew that that was why I suppressed myself for so much of my life. Because when you're so young and your light is the choice to become who I just knew I was meant to be, was to choose myself, was to stop suppressing. And again, like I said, I'm still working through this. I have danced with demons. I've literally danced with Beelzebub for all my spiritual people. We know that they have a lot to do with the throat chakra, right? Beelzebub is literally the antithesis of Gabriel, and Gabriel is the angel of communication. Beelzebub is really just the devil's angel of communication. And so when I run into these situations where I have to dance with this energy, where I have to move through this energy and embody this energy, I'm so glad that in that moment that my cousin shared that information, I chose Tantra of all the things to help me heal. Because one thing I knew was that shit was deep. It was deeper than I could remember. And it was so deep that I didn't need to remember. I just needed my body to lead me. And so again, God asked me, what you gonna do, kid? And I said, take me. Show me. Let me see what I haven't been willing to see, to feel, to know, so that I can serve. And not just serve selflessly, right? Wendy talked a little bit about this earlier this week, if you guys caught her talk. If you haven't, go catch the replay. Phenomenal. But in all this suppression, I was being selfless as well. And I thought that that was going to win me some way out, right? I thought, like, this is good karma. If I just give myself away, this is really good karma. And then eventually somebody will give to me. But no, I just kept pouring and pouring and pouring. And it was empty, empty, empty. And when I found Tantra, I refound my self-love at a level that I had never known before. And I feel like that's when I really met God. I knew God before that. I didn't meet God until I chose Tantra, though. And so sexuality has always been something that I've danced with as well. And it's something I feel really comfortable in. And it's something that actually a lot of people have always told me, you like reek sex appeal. You are so sexy. And like, of course you can do your work because you're so sexy. And it's like, babe, I haven't always been this expressed. I haven't always been this, it hasn't always been this easy for me to access my power, my expression, my embodiment. And so I promise you that there is nothing that you're going through. There is nothing that you have been through, and there is no lifetime or timeline where you have been through something. I know because I'm literally moving through it. I promise you that you can't transmute, but you got to be a little selfish. You got to choose you, and you have to choose you every single time, even when it hurts, even when it breaks your heart, even when it means walking away from somebody you love, even when it means doing the thing that people are going to be like, this bitch is crazy. And it takes choosing you anyway. Choose you anyway. That's all I want you to do every day. If you take anything from this, is choosing you anyways, no matter what. And I promise you, that's going to lead you to God, to your soul's work, to the passion, to the purpose, to the wealth, to the pleasure, to the spaciousness, to the deliciousness of life that you are craving. Because as much as I've been through all of these hard things, I've also experienced so much deliciousness. It's there for you. You just have to choose you, babe. Thank you so much for your time today. And I love you.
Oh, Des, we all felt that. So powerful, so vulnerable. And I really, really thank you for sharing such depth with us. I know that can't have been easy. Des, can you please tell everyone a little bit about the magic that you bring into the world and how they can come and get into that world?
Yes. So I have a little methodology that was born this year called the DNA method. It's a combination of Tantra, DNA activation, and source embodiment. So we work with magic. We definitely are like transmuting the 4 major wounds, mother, father, sister, witch, all of like the big spiritual work you want to do. And if you want to keep it really sexy too, you can do that in my world. You can find me at the Desiree Lakeisha. I have 2 profiles right now, so you want to make sure it's the one that says the Desiree Lakeisha, not I am. I'm retiring that one. If you find me there though, I'll direct you to the right one. And yeah, if you're interested in the work I do, just land in the DMs. Let's talk.
Oh, I think you're frozen. Are you there? Oh, I think are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, you froze then. Okay, amazing. So Des, can you be as kind to put those links in the chat for me when you get off, and everyone can head over there, go and get into Des's world, because why wouldn't you? I mean, what more is there to say after that? She is just such a phenomenal woman and someone I'm really proud to call my friend as well. Des, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your vulnerability. I know this was your first time speaking. You would not know. You absolutely bought it. Thank you so much, babe.
Thank you, my love. Have a great day. I'm excited to watch.
Oh my goodness, how incredible was that? Wow. Desiree is such a powerful force. And I want you just to take a minute because I know we went to some depths there. Just come back to the present moment. Just remember that Des's message was one of power. It was one of strength. It was one of overcoming the obstacles that we're given in our lives that we don't always have control over. In fact, most of the time we don't have control over. But we do have control over what we choose to do with those obstacles, how we choose to move forwards from them, what lessons we choose to make from them, and take those with us alongside the pain, because the pain won't go, but we can transmute that into power. This is the message that I got from Des's talk, and I would love to know in the comments what your biggest takeaway from her talk was as well. Take a minute, please do share this live stream with your audiences. You can share to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to Instagram if you can figure out how. I would absolutely love for you to spread this message, support these speakers, and get involved whilst we're making history and changing the world. Now, up next, we have a last minute speaker who stepped in because one of our other speakers was taken ill. And I am really excited to introduce her to you all. So we have the amazing Charlotte Calmes about to join us on the stage. Now, Charlotte founded the Doula Development School after realizing that there was a gap in the industry. There are many movements around birth methodology, but nothing around supporting those who guide women through birth. The most common reason people leave birth professions is burnout. They are exhausted, isolated, and overwhelmed. Charlotte saw in the world around her increasing levels of birth trauma, postpartum depression, and relationship breakdowns. And she was determined to guide herself and others to a state of being that allowed an overflow into the lives of others. I am so excited to bring her on. Here is the amazing Charlotte. Charlotte, welcome to the stage.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for stepping in last minute. I know this was kind of caught off guard, but you stepped up. You said, I'm ready. I'm there. Let's do this.
It's really, really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Claire.
You are most welcome.
And I got the tech to work, so that's a big step.
That's always a good start. I'm going to hand the
Absolutely.
stage over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much, Claire. Hi, everybody. So seeing as we're daring to share, I will share that I am not familiar with this kind of work, this kind of a forum. And so this is very overwhelming for me, but I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to tell you about myself. My name's Charlotte. I launched Doula Development School about 5 years ago. And my work is about supporting those people that support families in childbirth. But my story is what we're here to discuss tonight. And at the age of 18, I'd given up 5 places at medical school and deeply disappointed my parents. I knew it wasn't the path for me because the cost was just too high. I'd done working experience in tons of hospitals, and I saw every hospital doctor that I met just telling me over and over again how they were entirely burnt out. They weren't enjoying their work, the cost to their family life was too great, and they were utterly, utterly burnt out. I had other visions. I was going to get married, I was going to have loads of babies, and I was going to live happily ever after. That was my new plan. It was a simple life, a joyous one, and I gave up everything that I'd been working for until that point for this dreamed of future. I thought that I'd cracked the code, this wasn't the life for me, and everything was going to be incredible. And boy, did that not go to plan. At 19, I'd given birth to my first child, and my vision had been of this embodied, natural pregnancy where I was discovering being an earth mother like I'd invented the term. And that pregnancy was decimated by hyperemesis, which is a severe pregnancy sickness that is not just in the morning, it's morning, afternoon, and evening. And I was incredibly unwell. In addition, despite attending every natural birthing class, pregnancy swimming, pregnancy yoga, and everything else, I'd planned a home birth. I had midwives attending me at home, and my birth had ended in a brutal forceps delivery in a hospital miles away from my family. And I felt physically and emotionally completely brutalized. I was disillusioned with the medical profession, which I thought could handle the natural process of childbirth, and I was totally demoralized. And then an angel came into the room. And I don't remember this woman's name, but she changed my life. This woman was a midwife, and about 10 or 15 minutes after this 30-hour birth, which was brutal, she came into my room, and my husband at the time was on his phone. And she took his phone away. She pulled his chair up to the bed. She turned down the lights. She brought my baby up closer next to me, snuggled him up next to me with skin to skin contact, and covered me and him with a sheet. She put my head of my bed down, and she turned to my husband and she said, "You sit right there. And I'm not coming back into this room for another hour. You sit beside your wife and you let your wife bond with your baby, knowing that you're nearby and that you're close for her." And this experience utterly transformed me. And spoiler alert, I've attended hundreds of births by now, and I still remember this moment. I can smell it, I can feel it. It was absolutely transformational for me. And that baby is now 24 years old. I recovered from that birth, and after a few years, I went on to have a second child. I convinced myself that this was a first birth story, but my second birth was, in fact, a different story of prolonged induction, numerous interventions. I felt forced and coerced, and it was a birth that left me physically depleted in a way that I'd never experienced before. I remember that just after he was born, my mother came into the room and I said to her, "I can't hold my baby because I'm so exhausted. I feel like I'm going to stop breathing." And I felt so defeated. I felt so exhausted. I felt like I'd done everything in my power to create this vision, and I was just failing over and over again. I felt let down by my body. I felt let down by the system. In fact, at the end of that birth, I'd actually thrown every single caregiver out of the room, screaming the hospital down, telling everybody that I was never going to give birth with any of them in the room. And I'd thrown everybody out. And another angel came into that birth. This particular angel was a doctor. And she came in after I'd literally thrown everybody out, including my husband and everybody. I was alone in the room, and she walked in the room, she knocked on the door, and she came inside and she said, "Do you mind if I sit with you for a few moments?" And she just sat in the room near me whilst I calmed myself down. I listed all my complaints to her in the throes of intense labour. And she said to me, "You know what, Charlotte? Could you just get on the bed for me and me just have a look and see what's going on with this baby? Would you mind?" She said, "Maybe your baby needs a bit of help. It's taken a long time." I got onto the bed. She took one look at me and she said, "Your baby's ready to be born." And I said, "Well, I'm not letting anyone into the room." And she said, "It's no problem. I'll stay here with you and we'll give birth to this baby and everybody can come back afterwards." And I gave birth to the baby peacefully and calmly. And everyone else soon came into the room. There's actually a very funny story that is attached to this, which is about my dad coming to visit me after that baby was born. And in the olden days, that child is now 21. So there was no Google Maps. And he actually had a very fancy system in his car whereby you pressed a button and it connected to some kind of call center and it downloaded directions onto your phone, onto your car, sorry, not onto your phone, downloaded directions to your car and an automated voice would guide you through. And my dad got in the car and he said, "I have to get to the hospital. My daughter's having a baby." And they couldn't connect the system. The system wasn't working. And he kept saying, "I have to get to hospital to be with my daughter. She's having a baby." So the woman in the call center said, "Listen, sir, I can track your car. If you want, I'll navigate for you and I will take you to the hospital." And this woman on the end of the phone navigated my father on the whole journey from his home to the hospital, which was at least 30 minutes drive. And when he got there, she said to him, "Congratulations, sir." And he said, "Thank you very much." And he burst into my hospital room to support me. This was the angel of that birth story, another angel, I guess. Anyway, I recovered from this birth, but this was literally my life's vision. I was so determined to keep going. This is what I'd committed to. And with the same fervor I'd committed to a career as a doctor and everything else that I did, I was determined that I was going to have more children. And so I entered into a third pregnancy, a third HG, hyperemesis is abbreviated as HG, a third HG pregnancy, and it was only a year and a half later. I was about to give birth to this third child, and I suddenly had a decision in my mind. I wasn't going to tell anybody that I was in labour. I felt like there was nobody in the world that could help me. I felt completely isolated. I felt completely misunderstood. Nothing that I'd done was really preparing me for what I was about to get into. I decided I'd happily give birth alone. The only problem was that I had two young children at home and a third one on the way, and I didn't know how I would get enough peace and quiet in order to give birth. And I promise you, the only thing that got me into the car to go to the hospital was the fact that my children were making a noise upstairs. It was the afternoon, they'd come home from school and I'd gone into labour, and I just laboured quietly, but I knew that I was going to have to put some provision in place and get to a more peaceful space. So I waited and waited. And when I realized I couldn't wait anymore, I told my husband that I needed to go to the hospital. He didn't really believe me. He said, "What are you talking about? You know, this is nothing like any of the previous experiences." And I remember this sense of like determination and focus that I had this under control as long as I didn't tell anybody anything, which in retrospect was a very scary feeling, but I was quite adrenaline driven and powered to just get through. I got to the hospital. I was 9.5 centimeters dilated on examination and almost ready to give birth. Nobody believed me. I paced the corridors of that hospital and I wouldn't talk to anybody. I have never felt more focused and more isolated simultaneously than I did in that experience. It was like a visceral, animalistic desire to just do this in the safest way possible. It's the only way I can describe the feeling. And then all of a sudden, in the corridors, I start to hear screaming, screaming and screaming. And it sounds like it's coming from a very young person. And they're screaming and screaming. And I get a glimpse of a girl who, to me, looked like she was no more than 14 or 15 years old. And she was screaming in agony. She was surrounded by midwives, doctors. There was a boyfriend in the picture. And everybody on the ward could just hear on the floor, forget the ward, we were already in delivery suite. So we had our own rooms and everybody could hear this screaming. And I remember all I wanted to do was block the sound out and go away, but I was also so drawn to the distress of this woman. And then the doors swung open and there's this intense smell that I can still smell today. The strongest smell of tar. It was the smell of the roads being laid. And into the hospital corridor sweeps this man with a high-vis jacket, black on his hands, dirt and grime on every inch of his body. And he announces, "It's okay, darling, I'm here." He marches through the hospital corridor and it becomes apparent that this man is this girl's father. He walked into the room and he held his daughter. You could hear that her cries became muffled as he was holding her. And within moments, she was completely calm. It was one of the most incredible things I'd experienced. And inside, I was raging. I was angry. I was determined. I felt lonely. I felt misunderstood. And this girl was completely safe. It turned out that she gave birth to twins and she went home several days later. All I could remember is the smell of this man as he burst through the doors and the immediacy of the change in this woman. And I just felt so overwhelmed. Eventually, peace resumed, and I vowed that I would learn whatever magic that was. I went into a birthing room, completely calm on the outside, but raging on the inside. And within a couple of moments, it was time for me to deliver. And again, I climbed off the bed of the hospital and crouched down in a corner because I didn't feel safe. And I remember crouching on the floor and saying to myself in those moments, how did I get here again? How had this happened to me? I gave birth to a healthy baby boy, my third boy, at 11:40 p.m. His birthday is 040505. And he's always been irritated with me that I didn't hang on for 20 more minutes so that his birthday could be 050505. Unfortunately, within a year of this birth, my marriage had failed and I had fallen apart. I really thought my life was over. I had this vision of this perfect family, this big household of children, and this perfect marriage. And now I had 3 kids under 5, and I was struggling to survive. I was struggling to cope. I really didn't know how to handle the situation that I found myself in. I felt like I'd failed on every front. I was living far away from family, and I was struggling just to manage with my day-to-day life. I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I managed slowly to rebuild myself, and I worked intense hours. I lived about a 40-minute drive from my children's school at the time. And I used to wake up in the morning, get my children out of the house, drive 40 minutes in one direction to take them to school, and then drive 20 minutes back in the direction I'd come from in order to go to work. I would drive another 20 minutes back to pick the children up from school. But at some point in that process, they started to have different finishing times. And I used to have someone pick some of my children up and take them to the local library so that I could meet them with the second round by driving all the way back. Then I would drive the 40 minutes back home again. I would give them supper, do homework, play with them, get them into bed. I would get a babysitter and I would go out again to work in the evenings. I was exhausted. Externally, I was achieving a lot. I was making great money. I was doing things that had high profile. And I was working every hour that I possibly could just to keep my head above water. And any illusions of building this family and this secure home had gone out the window. It was just about survival. A couple of years later, I met my then husband, and he and I got married. He'd never been married before, and he took on my children as his own. Within a year or so of us being married, we decided to have another baby. And again, I started to believe and trust in this vision of a family. My children had taken to him exceptionally well. I had financial stability and I had a home life that I was happy with. And we decided to make a reset and try again. And so I decided that I would get pregnant, and I decided that I would take more antenatal classes. I would take more classes of birth preparation because I'd clearly missed something along the way, and I wanted to get it right this time. And this was a very interesting experience for me because, as you probably know, most antenatal classes, most birth preparation classes are taken by people who've never had a baby before. So I sat in a room with all kinds of couples and family setups who'd never had a baby before, and I listened. I actually went to several courses, different techniques that were famous at the time and which have notoriety in the world of childbirth. I was absolutely determined that I was going to crack this code. I was determined that I was going to work out how to do this, and I was going to go on to have more children, and I was going to build this home and this family that I was completely committed to. But as I was listening in the classes, it became clear to me that a lot of what was being said, whilst it sounded good in principle, just couldn't be applicable to every person in every circumstance. In fact, when I reflected on my 3 previous births, it couldn't even have all been applicable to every one of my births. First of all, each birth is different physiologically, and the way that it pans out can depend on lots of physical factors. And then there's the emotional component. We are different people at all different stages of our lives, and certainly at the times that we give birth to different children. I just realized that the entire system was too prescriptive, too instructive. It was like tools without the right training to go behind it. There was techniques and there was ideas and there was different practical things that you could do. And there was a lot of instructions. I just remember a lot of instructions, diagrams and pictures and instructions everywhere for me, for my husband, for me to communicate to the people that I had with me in the birth. It was overwhelming. And I just remember thinking, there's no chance that I can remember all this stuff whilst I'm actually actively in labor. I've done this before. So after a couple of classes, I walked away from a couple of courses that I'd done. I walked away on a new mission. I read every book. I really mean like every book I could get my hands on. And what I really did is I would read the book quite quickly, and then I would go through the bibliography. I wanted to get to the source of all the ideas that were contained in the books, all the ideas that were contained in all the different disciplines. I went back over all the basics. I tracked my own experiences. I have the benefit of a pretty good memory. The people in my life say that I'm a nostalgia maniac. I remember a lot of details about events that I've experienced, and I was lucky that I could remember my births very clearly. And I went over and over and over them in my mind. And I realized that there were some universal truths. There were some things in these source materials that were true about our bodies. And there were some good ideas about our minds. But in the literature, they were being overly generalized. They were being overly commercialized. And the individuality of every person who was present in that birth, me especially, but certainly my husband and my caregivers, was being minimized and disregarded. I guess the businesses were scalable in that regard, but it really was very frustrating for me to look at it. So by this stage, I was heavily pregnant with my fourth child, and I began to make my own plan for my birth. And a few months later, I gave birth to my fourth son. It was an absolutely serene and beautiful birth. He was born in under 3 hours. He was born in a birthing center, which was my chosen place to give birth. And the birth was everything that I had hoped it would be. I was totally transformed by the experience, and I was on a high. I'd achieved my mission. I couldn't stop talking about it. I told all my friends, I told all my family. There were some cynical people who told me, well, of course, after you've had 3 kids, it's going to go easy anyway. But I knew that I'd tapped into something, and I couldn't even really articulate it fully. I just knew that it was something that had changed my life. And then a couple of friends were coming over for dinner, and they asked me if I would support them in their births. They were both about 32 or 33 weeks pregnant at the time, and they asked me if I would support them in their births. And I laughed. I said, there's absolutely no way. This has taken me years of work, and I can only apply it to myself. And they said, we're not asking you for your techniques. We're asking you for the principles, the things that you tapped into, what you unlocked. And I ended up supporting both of them in their births. And both of their births were healing experiences for them and for their husbands. Both of them had had traumatic first births in different ways, and their second births were beautiful and incredible. And that was how my journey as a doula began, kind of by mistake. They basically convinced me that I was gatekeeping what I'd learnt. And so I just thought I'd start doing it for friends and family. But what actually followed was 15 years straight of intense work as an antenatal teacher and a doula. And I loved it. But it was exhausting. I was driven by this sense of mission. I had to prove something to everybody. I had to put in more hours and attend more births and have higher success rates. And I was pushing and pushing on all fronts. I gave birth to my 5th child, my first and only daughter. During the time that I was working as a doula, I attended a birth 2 weeks before she was born and another one 6 weeks after. I had 5 kids under 10, and I was passionate, and I was also entirely exhausted. I didn't have time to breathe, and I just pushed through. I had some really scary moments where I had to make split-second decisions without a lot of information to hand. I had some exhilarating moments, and I had many, many exhausting ones. I helped hundreds of families, and I was very honored to do the work. And every time I left a birth, I would pick up my phone, and depending on the time of day, I would message a close friend of mine, and she would let me debrief about the birth experience. She was often awake at crazy hours of the day because she had her own small children, and she let me download my experiences, swear that I was never going to do it again, that it was too hard, too isolating, and this sense of duty that just kept pushing me to spend my energy to just do more and more and more. In 2019, I gave birth to my 6th child at home in my bedroom in a planned home birth. It was my worst pregnancy yet. It was my 6th hyperemesis pregnancy, and I was on an IV every 3 days just to get through it. I would time the IVs so that the peak of my hydration and well-being would allow me to teach my antenatal clients. And I even attended births during that pregnancy because I was so single-minded and determined just to get through. I really thought I was at my peak in that year. And then everything came crashing down. COVID hit, all doula work in person stopped. And to top it off, my second marriage broke down in very, very difficult circumstances. I was devastated and I was terrified. I had 6 kids. I was struggling for money. I had no work. I was homeschooling everybody with a 1-year-old running around. And all of a sudden, in the midst of anxiety and depression, fear, overwhelm, exhaustion, and everything else, when the world slowed down for a moment and I was able to step back, I had a new vision. I had an idea that we could do more. I remembered the sense of isolation that I'd felt, and I was also enjoying learning things remotely and having time to be reflective. I started writing about my experiences. I started thinking about the things that had challenged me as a doula. And I kept remembering the sound of people's screams. Because every time I worked in the hospital, I would hear screams, like the screams of that young girl in the hospital at my third birth. And I remember how stressful it was. I would be with my clients and they'd be calm and supported and well prepared. And they would joke to me, really what you need to do is go and help the woman next door. And I used to find it so demoralizing. It was like treading water. It was like trying to fulfill a mission that was impossible to fulfill. And when I reflected on these things, I realized how little education there is around this area. And also that so many doulas around me were getting burnt out. I realized that in the doula training, there was a lot of focus on techniques. Doulas are well trained in lots of techniques and lots of skills. They understand the body very well, but there's very little focus on what it takes to be a doula, how to make it a sustainable career, how to avoid burnout, and how not to operate from this sense of drive and mission and responsibility that just takes from you. I was constantly pouring from an empty cup, and a plan started to develop in my mind. I was sure that I was going to be able to change things, and I was determined that this was going to be my new mission. But life struck again. The end of COVID didn't mean the end of the dramas in my life. First of all, divorces are hell to navigate, and my second marriage had fallen apart. My children were now reaching adulthood, and they were emerging into this post-COVID world and reevaluating everything. And they'd experienced more trauma. And by the way, my parents still kept asking me when I was going to give it all up and train to be a doctor. I was anxious, depressed, lonely, and overwhelmed, and I didn't feel I had anything left to give. But then I started to develop an idea. I would build an online course to train in the fundamentals of being a doula. I would create self-paced learning that didn't require people to stop their lives for days at a time in order to achieve it. And then I would build a movement, a community around this course. I was inspired by the midwife at my first birth, the father that was a street worker that had come to support his daughter, and my friend who'd answered my phone calls. I wanted to build a movement of thousands of people that were trained to support people in childbirth, but were also empowered, embodied, mentored, and supported throughout their careers. I was so excited about this. And then at 66 years old, my mum was diagnosed with leukemia. And my world ground to a halt all over again. For 8 months, I was at her bedside. We were in rotation, my siblings, my stepfather and I. And during that time, I also had to finalize my divorce. It was an overwhelming experience, and it took the life out of me. I couldn't believe that I was back in it again. I'd made a new friend at the beginning of this process, and gradually, over the time of my mother's illness, that friendship developed into a relationship. It was a relationship that got stronger. But I have to say that most of my energy and focus was on my mother and on my family. My mother passed away after 8 months, 8 months that were excruciating for all of us. But before she passed away, she saw me take the step to get married for a third time. When I was discussing with her, my partner, who was now my husband, I told her that in finding him, I'd stopped trying to explain my relationship in terms of explaining the other person. I realized that I'd spent most of my life trying to serve others at the cost of myself. I was good at it. My husband's built successful businesses. My children had successful lives. They were fulfilled and energetic, and my clients were deeply happy with what I was providing them. but I'd now met a person who was focused on me being me. I told my mother that I'd found myself since meeting him, that we had partnership and friendship, and most of all, supreme amounts of joy. My relationship was so joyful, and from that position of joy and being filled up, all this creativity and energy flooded back into me. I'd been taking 3 or 4 types of antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication, and I was so ashamed. There I was teaching people breathing and relaxation techniques, and I could barely function. And slowly, those things started to fold away, even though I was still dealing with the practical practical reality of what living on my own with my children and with the sickness of my mother. And as my mother came towards the end of her life, we had a lot of conversations about life and what was important. And the thing that she agreed with me and enforced to me most of all is that life is for living, that love is the most important thing. And she gave me her blessing to move forward into the next stage of my life. And a few months after my back garden wedding, my mother passed away with her husband, my siblings and I by her side. Confronting death in that way changed me all over again. It devastated me, and in some ways, because confronting mortality does that to a person, it liberated me. And as the weeks passed and I moved through the deep mourning, I was more determined than ever to make this movement into a reality. And my vision has only got bigger. Because what is a doula? A doula is someone who serves and supports. The word has become synonymous with childbirth, but in reality, it can actually be applied in many contexts. Of course, we doula people through childbirth, but as doulas, we also have to doula ourselves through the lives that we're living whilst we're working in this profession. We doula the partners of our clients, like the woman guiding my father on the way to the hospital. And even sometimes we doula the medical professionals that we work with, the ones that were so burnt out and exhausted from my work experience when I was 16 and 17 years old. My life has included many moments and periods of self-reflection and self-coaching. Many of the techniques I use with birthing women help me to navigate my own anxiety, my kids' challenges, my divorces, my mother's death, and also taken me through the happy times. Because becoming a doula is not just a job, it's a way of life. It's a way of being. It's not just a set of tools and techniques, but it does need to be sustainable. So many doulas that I know, like many medical professionals, have stopped working due to burnout. And thousands of families are suffering with the lack of caregivers. Resources are stretched to the max globally, and I have a solution. I am confident that as a community, we can eliminate birth trauma, literally. And when I say that, I don't mean birth outcomes. Those are not in our hands. But regardless of the outcomes, families that are supported correctly can have an experience which eliminates trauma. Trauma is a state of being. It's a state of response, by the definition that I use, to the circumstances that you're presented with. And as a result, we can reduce the exceedingly high levels of postpartum physical and mental health problems and serious relationship breakdowns that are so often exacerbated by the pre and postnatal period. It takes a village, and I'm creating that village. Heck, I'm going to create a city or a country. I'm going global. And if any of you want to join me, you've got my details in the bio.
Oh, Charlotte, wow, that was so incredible. I felt like we were watching a movie of your life. So beautiful. And I know, again, another first-time speaker, you've not done something like this before. And I just want to say that was absolutely just beautiful, really powerful. And what you're doing is so needed. Myself as a mother of 2 girls, very different births, and everything that you said was so resonant. Charlotte, can you please tell everyone where the best place is to come into your amazing world?
Sure, of course. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Doula Development School. And there's also a website, which is douladevelopmentschool.com. At the moment, the socials are where I'm putting most of my energy. But if you DM me on any of those, I can link you up with all the other resources. It's a new business in its current form, and I'm very excited if anyone wants to be a part of it.
Absolutely. This is going global. Like you say, this is a movement. Charlotte, thank you so much for stepping in at the last minute and for daring to share your vulnerability, your story, and your truth with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Mwah. Bye for now. Okay, we are moving on. We have another amazing speaker waiting in the wings. We have Laurie Herbers. Now, Laurie is a relationship and spiritual love coach. She's an author of multiple books. Her love of learning led to degrees in education, but her heart for God led to using those degrees in the pursuit of his children by creating courses to inspire love and embrace who God created his children to be. She empowers women on their journey to renewal and restoration by reclaiming their authenticity and aligning with God's plans to prosper them. Laurie, I am so excited to bring you to the stage. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I am so good. I am going to hand right over to you. I can't wait to hear your talk.
Thank you. So you are always becoming something. Either you are becoming more of who you are called to be, or you're becoming less, because we are never stagnant. So what is a major part of who you are becoming? It is your thoughts, because your thoughts turn into beliefs. And then your beliefs are how you act, how you behave, how you make choices. So this question is what I have for you today is concerning your thoughts. So the thoughts in your mind, to whom do they belong? And I want you to kind of hold on to that question as I share with you today. So whose thoughts are in your head? So I'm going to take you back to 2009, and I was sitting on my couch under the weight of death and divorce. My father had passed away in January of that year. And the week that I went home, basically to bury him and to say goodbye, my, at that time, husband decided it was a great time to move everything out of the house because I wasn't there. So I basically came home to an empty space. So needless to say, I'm sitting on my couch. I'm filled with anger. I'm filled with hate. And I was yelling at God. I grew up Catholic. I knew God existed. I knew he was around somewhere. But when you really looked at my beliefs, I believe that he made a mistake when he made me, because I grew up in abuse. Every single day I was told I was stupid, I was worthless, I would never amount to anything. Didn't matter that I got straight A's when I was basically through middle school until I finally gave up, because I was like, what was the point? Because if I'm still stupid with straight A's, why am I trying so hard? Why do I work so hard? So I stopped trying. So anyway, here I am sitting on that couch and I'm angry, because when you spend your life listening to thoughts in your mind telling you how unworthy you are, and you just kind of give up on life. I didn't have goals. If you would have asked me what I wanted out of life, I wouldn't have told you anything, because I just assumed that the crap life that I had, that's all I had. That's all I was going to have. And I've shared that piece of story, but today's about being raw and real. So we're going to go even deeper. We're going to go back to when I was little, and I can still picture myself in my bedroom. I remember the placement of my bed and the things that I could say, that I could see, and that I could hear. When I was little, I spoke with angels, and I did my best to hide from demons. They were always there. I don't remember a time that they weren't there when I was little. I saw them, I heard them, I felt them. Darkness came, they hovered in my room at night. I saw them at the end of my bed. They, of course, filled me with dread. I was scared. And so I cried out to those who were supposed to protect me, but they didn't believe me. They told me I was crazy. So what did I do? What choice did I have but to tell myself that I couldn't see them, that it wasn't real, there's nothing there. And so because I denied my eyes by telling myself I couldn't see, and I want you to know that's how powerful your mind is, that I turned from my gifts. And by doing that, like I shoved them down. I kind of turned them off. And then I kind of forgot that I could do that, because I didn't want to be seen as crazy. So I pushed it away from myself. But here's the thing. When we bury ourselves, the weight of that lie, because you're living a lie, you're not authentically yourself when you bury pieces of yourself or try to dismiss pieces of yourself. So the weight of that lie festered and it burned inside of me for decades. I'm not talking a year or two. I'm talking decades. I went into motherhood this way. So what is buried inside of you, festering, wanting out? What piece of you are you denying out of fear of being truly seen? You might not even know it's there. Because like I said, for years, I forgot. I forgot what I could do. And it hurt me to dismiss parts of myself. So you might not know it's there. You might be believing in lies. But the truth will eventually find its way out. So the lies that told me I wasn't worthy, that I'd never be enough, grew heavier and heavier with every year, with every day, with every moment that went by, all the way to the day on that couch. And I was filled with hate. And I mean, I was filled with hate and rage and anger. And I sat on that couch and I was yelling at God, and I literally wanted to die because I thought, this is all that there is. I'm unworthy, I'm unwanted, and this crap life that I'm living, no one's ever going to want me. I went through a divorce. My father was gone. I really, truly believed that was it. That's all. That's all my life was going to be, was this heavy ugliness that I sat in for decades. And so my thoughts swirled and they whirled in my head, and they just went round and round. And here's the thing that I learned, that your thoughts in your head are either love and peace or death and destruction. And I lived in death and destruction in my head for years, until that day on that couch. And that day helped me to know, to really, really know, that our battle's not against flesh and blood, because my abuser was gone. He had passed away. But it's a spiritual battle. You may not see that spiritual battle, but you hear it and you feel it. I still felt the pain. I still heard the lies. So that's why I started to question, if my abuser's already gone, then why am I still hearing those words of death and destruction that he spoke? Because he was not the originator of those words. He was just saying what he heard. So that day on that couch, there was a storm raging outside. It was like literally over my house. Lightning slashing. And because I wanted to die so desperately, I ran out into that storm, really hoping for lightning to strike me down. Because I'm like, what do I have to live for? And what's really sad when I think about it now is that I had a daughter. But I was so consumed with hate and anger, I couldn't even remember the importance of her in my life. And I was outside yelling at God, and my neighbors probably thought I was a weird, strange person. First of all, I'm out in a storm. And secondly, I'm yelling out loud. I'm literally yelling out loud to God. Why did you create me? Why am I here? Why do you want this crappy life for me? I don't get it. I don't understand. Why won't you help me? What is going on? Everything's meaningless. Why do you hate me so much? And to my shock, he spoke audibly and he asked me, why do you hate you so much? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't know the answer. I had no idea. But when you hear the truth, everything in me knew. He's right. I hate everything about me. And that truth that he spoke to me began an unraveling, an undoing that needs to happen to allow ourselves to heal and to grow. So that question made me stop, and it made me evaluate my life. And it started a whole new journey on me reclaiming my authenticity. At the time, I didn't know that's what we were doing, but that's what we were doing. Because we're born perfect. We're born in perfect love. We come from love. But the world starts to tell us who it thinks that we are or who we should be. And so then those thoughts start to focus in your mind and you listen to them. But so that's back to that question. So all those thoughts in your head, whose are they? Because I didn't come out of the womb saying, you're unworthy, you're unwanted, you're going to amount to nothing. Everything you do is going to fall apart. I didn't come out of the womb saying that to me. So are they yours? The truth is, not all the thoughts running through your mind are yours until you choose them, until you accept them, until you make them yours. Because you decide whether to accept or reject the thought. You are to master your mind, not be mastered by it. I let it master me. I didn't know there was a choice. That day I learned that God is always speaking to you. And that every person has a gift given to them from him. for him to live in divine purpose. I know many believe he's not talking to them, or they're not gifted to hear him, or they just don't believe in him at all. But I want you to think about your thoughts for a moment. Really think about it. Have you ever thought, I'm not enough? I can't do it. I don't know how. I'm not smart enough. I'm too loud. I'm too quiet. I'm too shy. I'm too outspoken. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm too thin. I'm too fat. I'm unkind. I'm too nice. I should have said more. Nope, I should have said less. I should have turned right. No, I failed. I'm stupid. Too many people are already in that field, so I can't do that. Nothing ever works for me. I'm always going to be stuck. I'm always going to be in lack. I'm always going to live paycheck to paycheck. So who's saying all of this to you? How are you not enough? How are you less than who God created you to be? Because none of that is God. And it's also not you. Why are we so quick to believe not only the lie, but we accept it? The lies seem to speak louder than the truth. Why is that? It's because we focus on them. What you focus on becomes your focus. I focused on the lies I was told, and I became those lies. Because you can learn to listen for the still small voice, that truth. You can reclaim your authenticity. You can deep dive into divine love and purpose. You can own who you are. You don't have to listen to the negative, dishonoring thoughts that don't belong to you. Don't be like I was. Don't do it. I did it for a long time. You are a mighty warrior. You are chosen. You are accepted just as you are right now. God believes in you. He trusts you. So how do you learn to trust yourself? You start paying attention to the thoughts in your head. You take each one captive. If it honors you, you keep it. If it dishonors, you say no, and you reject it. Because your mind is like a garden. You have to tend to it so it doesn't get overrun with weeds. All those lies were weeds. They were festering. They were overrunning my mind. The dishonoring lies. Pull them out one by one and set yourself free. No one can do this for you. No one can take the lies from you. You must choose to stop listening to them. You have to do something about it. You're not broken. You may be hurting. You may have wounds, but you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You have everything you need to succeed. God has plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Think about that. Every dishonoring thought harms you. They're not of him. They're not his thoughts. So don't make them yours. You already have everything you need. You don't need anyone to give you gifts from God because God already gave them to you. You don't need someone to activate your gifts. They're already activated. You just need to accept them and learn how to use them. Just like anything else, you have to learn. You have to develop. You have to own them because they are you. You have the ability to discern who's talking to you. You just need strategies on how to do it. You have to learn how to honor all of you, every single piece, even the pieces you wish were not yours. They're still pieces of you. You are love. You came from love. Honor the love that is you and receive through acceptance all of your pieces, all that God created you to be. You were created in perfect love and perfect peace. So claim that perfect peace. Claim that perfect peace, and your thoughts will align with love and peace. You want your life to prosper? Align your life with God's plan by reclaiming your authenticity of who you are, who you came into this world as, and deep dive into divine love and the purpose, because you are love and purpose. You literally are your purpose. Everything about you is for your purpose. When you walk in divine purpose, you walk in your greatest joy. You would do it for free because you love it. If you're not sure if something is your purpose, do this little trick. Imagine it, that thing that you think is your purpose, and imagine if it was taken from you and you never got to do it. If it's your purpose, just the idea of never being able to do it will feel like someone ripped you apart. Why? Because you are your purpose. All of your gifts and everything about you are to walk in that divine purpose for which you are created. So with that in mind, whose thoughts are in your head? Start deciding which ones to honor and which ones you just need to get rid of. Keep only the ones that are good and pure and your entire life will start to change, because what you focus on becomes your focus, and you're always becoming something. Start choosing who you are becoming. And just one more reminder, just no one can do this for you. Sometimes the work is hard. I'm not going to lie. I tell my clients right off the bat, some of this is going to get hard, but it gets easier as you move through. You got to walk through the fire. There's no climbing over, going under, going around it. There's just some things we have to go through because it's part of our becoming more of who we're called to be. And so with that, that's where I'm at. I don't know what time it is. I'm sorry.
Hi, Laurie. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I love that. You know, you're always becoming something, making that decision instead of just allowing it to happen to you.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I would love to ask you, Laurie, what would you say is the most, is there like one takeaway that anyone watching this can take from this talk and start implementing into their life right now? Because the thoughts, you know, we hear it all the time, change your thoughts, change your life, but it's easier said than done, right?
Mhm.
So do you have maybe one tip or one trick that we can take away with us and start to actually put in place in our lives to try and gain some control over those thoughts?
Yes, I think it's twofold. I'm always going to say journal. I've had clients, I'm not a writer. It's not about writing. It really isn't, because really what it starts to, when you really start digging into, when you think it over garden, just a ton of weeds, you have to start somewhere. You have to start picking one out at a time. And that's what we have to do with our thoughts. Journaling allows us to start writing them down, because one, let's face it, we forget. Let's just face it, we do, because there's so many going in our head. It also helps to what I call a dump out, because when you first get started, and you can't sleep at night, and I got to do this and I have to do that, and I'm thinking this and that. I call it a dump out, because what you're doing is you're just getting it all out. Instead of letting it fester and run, you just start writing it all out so you can get it, first of all, out of you. Because then once it's out of you, then you can look at your paper and go, oh, whoa, what was that? Why did I just write that right there? Because, you know, the key is to acknowledge something exists, because if you're not listening, you're just, you know, it's just going. You're unworthy. Because for me, an example, all I heard all the time is I'm unworthy. I didn't even second guess that I could be worthy. But by journaling and getting it out of you, you can start going, wait a minute, what is that? And the more you do it, like I said, you start pulling out all the weeds, and then all of a sudden it starts to flip. So instead of all dishonoring thoughts, now you have an honoring one, and then you have an honoring one, and you have an honoring one. And then you're like, wait a minute, this is so much better place to be than in the lies.
That makes so much sense. So what you're saying is it's not just suddenly like you rip out all of the weeds, right? I think this is what we tend to expect.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, I've changed my thoughts, and suddenly it's like a clean slate. But like you say, you have to start somewhere, and gradually over time, this is what I'm understanding from you, gradually over time, the garden gets clearer. The flowers are able to grow where the weeds were once taking up all that space. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's an undoing. So that, because I kind of mentioned it briefly about there's an undoing that has to happen. Because in essence, every time I heard a lie, I basically planted that seed. I'm unworthy, I'm unwanted, I'm unlovable. So now I have to go backwards and go, oh, wait, I am worthy. So I'm going to take that one back. Oh, I am lovable. I'm going to take that one back. There's an undoing that has to happen. You're right. It's not a magical switch and I'm just going to flip it and everything's great. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
It's not, but it gets easier, because like once you start clearing up, when half of your garden's clear, whoa, you can look and go, wow, that's amazing. And then you can start working on the other half. It gets easier.
And then even if one weed comes in, like the rest of, like all the flowers, they're far more beautiful than that one tiny weed. I love that analogy. That's really, really powerful. Laurie, can you please share with everyone a little bit about the work that you do now and how they can come and get into your world?
Yes, that is actually what I help people do. I help people learn to discern the truth versus the lie, because you have that ability. It's just strategies that you need to start paying attention to what you're actually thinking. And it does take time and it does take effort. I help people learn how to journal. I help give them the strategies. I have two different things. I have a GRACE framework that I use. I also have a 5C client method, and it's called the client method because we're all unique. And so sometimes we have to shift gears a little bit depending on who you are and your uniqueness. So it's not something that I could just set in stone, say, well, this is because it doesn't always work that way for every single person. So that's why I have a method that can shift for people and not be something so set in stone, because even our mind shouldn't be set in stone. Because again, when we're not honoring our thoughts, we get set in stone with this belief pattern. So yeah, I help people untether, undo, claim who they are. So basically reclaim your authenticity, get back into the divine love and purpose that you are here, because we get lost in the lies. Sometimes we just need someone to help light the way out. And so that's what I help people do.
Beautiful. And where's your preferred platform that people contact you?
I would say either Facebook or TikTok. I would say I'm on Facebook more. I just feel like it's easier for some reason. But yeah, that would be my main platform, really.
Amazing. Laurie, could you do me a favor when we jump off? Could you pop your links in the chat so that everyone watching the replay or live can come and get into your world?
Okay, perfect.
Amazing. Laurie, thank you so much for taking to the stage today and daring to share your story with us, your truth and your vulnerability.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Wow. We are moving along. Now, we have got our next guest waiting in the wings. But before she joins us, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break. Use this moment to go and get a cup of tea, have something to eat quickly, refresh, regenerate, because we have 2 speakers left, closing out the first ever Dare to Share Summit. We will see you right back on the hour.
You can think yourself into a depression. You can think your way into stress. You can think your way into misery, frustration. There's so much more power in the mind than you probably like to give yourself credit for. Change your mind. Decide that you love yourself enough to not surround yourself with people, things, and situations that can have your mind continuing to spiral down this negative and dysfunctional train.
Don't let anybody laugh at your thinking, because as you begin to think things that are not there, you need to understand that that thinking is the first step to a revolution in your life that is incredibly significant.
The person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you. It's not somebody else. It's not the environment. It's not the circumstances into which you were born. It is what you actively decide that you want for your life and how much energy you decide to put behind it. But nobody else can control your life except you.
Change your mind to change your life. That's what I know. That's what I believe. The day you change your mind, it will change your life. You can create the outcome of your hour, your week, your month, and your year. You just have to decide in your mind what you want it to be.
Because if you think wrong, you go wrong. If you think down, you go down. If you think you can't get up, you can't get up. If you think you can't be free, you can't be free. If you think you can't learn anymore, you'll never be able to learn. Your thoughts are either dragging you down or taking you up.
You know, your brain has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. It doesn't forget anything you've ever seen. or anything you've ever heard, which is why it's important to make sure you don't put the wrong things in there, because they always will impact upon you subconsciously and consciously.
Do you have the courage to think something beyond where you are?
You are fully capable of deciding your own destiny. The question you face is, which path will you choose? This is something only you can decide.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, what would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Do you have the courage to think? Because if you can think, you can change, you can move, you can evolve, you can grow, you can become. You are one idea away. Your credit is not a problem, your house is not a problem, your car is not a problem, your situation is not a problem, your thoughts are the problem. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Come on. You are one thought away from a great reformation in your life. One thought away from being a millionaire. One thought from overcoming. One thought from starting a ministry. One thought from building a business. One thought for the cure for AIDS is one thought away. The cure for cancer is one thought away. You serve the Lord with your mind. You serve humanity with your mind. If you sow into the kingdom, you're not asking God to give you money. What is money? Give me a thought. Give me an idea. Give me a strategy. Give me a plan. You are one thought away from the greatest experience you have ever had in your life. You are no better than the thoughts you think. If you think little, you go little. If you think weak, you go weak. If you think up, you go up.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. You've been searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. And buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore.
Welcome back. We have still got two more amazing speakers for you. We are not over yet. We are not at the end yet. You need to stick around because these two speakers are going to be incredible. Now, next up, we have the incredible Aliyah Charoui. I hope I've said that right. Aliyah is the visionary behind Aura Merkaba. She's a multifaceted creatrix, weaving magic into everyday life through like, how do I say this? Esoteric arts, crystal healing, and sacred geometry. As a spiritual coach, she guides individuals on journeys of self-discovery, empowering them to unlock their inner potential, connect with their highest self, and manifest a fulfilling life with clarity and purpose. Her passion for blending spirituality with everyday living shines through in her captivating creations and curated experiences, inspiring others to embrace their authentic selves and step confidently into their power. Aliyah, welcome to the Dare to Share stage.
Hi, thank you so very much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
I'm so excited and thank you. You have stepped in last minute, literally last minute, because we had the times mistaken as well.
Absolutely, yes.
I am ready for it. I am going to hand you over the stage.
Okay, great. Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I just going to ask you, how many of you have ever found yourself waking up in the morning and you can just feel that it's going to be a great day? You had a great sleep. Maybe you had a sweet dream. You feel rested, inspired, and ready, and you open your eyes, waking up slow, grateful for the soft pillow and cozy blanket on your cloud of a bed. You count your blessings as you head to the washroom to freshen up for your day. Maybe you do a little workout, maybe you get a coffee or get dressed right away, or whatever your morning ritual is. And you just know you're going to have a great day. And then you do. Someone compliments your hair first thing in the morning. You find a $100 bill in your coat pocket. You get an unexpected sale, and it's just like, yes, of course, I knew it. Of course, this is a great day. We've all had great days like that, haven't we? And what about the opposite kind of day? You tossed and turned all night. Maybe the smoke detector went off by mistake. You had a nightmare. Your alarm clock didn't go off in the morning, and you rush out of bed and you stub your toe. And then you go and you take your favorite sweater out of the dryer and it shrunk. And then you go to make your coffee and you're out of coffee cream. And then you get an unexpected bill to pay. And then your day just keeps on that trajectory. Why? Why does this happen? You may have heard on the internet streets that we live in a vibrational world. As the most Instagrammable Nikola Tesla quote so eloquently states, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This, my friends, is what I specialize in. I am an energy worker. I'm a light worker. And my special sauce is the esoteric arts of navigating the energetic world to manifest the highest outcome for ourselves. In the two examples of contradictory mornings that I just shared with you, I'm sure we can all relate to in one form or another. Neither one of them were necessarily determined by anything you specifically did. More likely than not, you just found yourself on autopilot and you were just thrown into the energetic frequency of the day. And that can be determined by a vast variety of factors, both within and outside of your control. And 99% of people on this earth are just oblivious to this. And they just get bounced around by the frequencies of the day like a pinball in a machine that feels like it's outside of yourself. Unbeknownst to you, that you have any measurable influence over the energies that be or the way that you fare in the game. Well, I'm here to share with you the absolutely wonderful news that, in fact, you do have influence over the energy of your days, and that translates to the overall energy of your life. You are the game. There is no pinball machine without you. You are the center of it all. Are there factors outside of your control? Well, yes, obviously, absolutely. But if you know the mechanics of how it all works, then you can rig the game in your favor and come out on top of the leaderboard time and time again. Sound too good to be true? Okay. I'll be the first to admit that the pinball machine analogy is a little clunky. But the truth is that our energetic reality really does have measurable geometric signatures, just as much as our material reality does. Everything vibrates, oscillates, spins, and creates beautiful patterns that can be captured as sound waves or in the petal arrangements of flowers, in the eye of a hurricane, or the honeycombs of bees. We too have energetic signatures, ever shape-shifting as we move through our lives. And that is the beauty of life for us. It isn't stagnant. And this is by design, because otherwise, how boring would it be? We get the absolute privilege to change our minds, to experience shifting desires and chapters of our lives that can feel like completely different timelines. And yet, there are rules to the game that we need to work within the parameters of. And yes, rules are meant to be broken and they can be bent pretty hard. But when we learn to work with them, we realize that the universe is in fact rigged in our favor. And we really just need to get out of the way to allow our own delicious expansion and enjoy a life of success and fulfillment. But before we get into all that, let's talk about that word a little bit. Success. What does that even mean? I'll tell you what it meant to me. It used to mean dollars in the bank account. It used to mean orders in my inbox. It used to mean boxes shipped promptly, products designed seamlessly at light speed. It used to mean production and productivity above all else. I used to grind so hard. I'd wake up early. I'd stay up late. I'd push myself to limits of exhaustion. I'd drink 4 cups of coffee a day. I'd eat at my desk, quick meals. I'd survive on cheese and crackers. Drink very little water. Sit for hours on end, not move my body, not take time for my personal life. I'd allow the clutter to pile up. Those dishes can be done later. That laundry can be folded later. These orders need to go out. This post needs to be posted. This design needs to be perfected. This inventory needs to be sorted. The baby needs tending to. Boss mom life is so real. The endless to-do lists are ever present, and my personal care was always at the bottom. I was successful by patriarchal society measures, making 10K months on repeat, sometimes more, sometimes less. The machine was working, but I was experiencing burnout on unprecedented levels, juggling all that, being a mom and a wife and a homemaker and a groundskeeper and a dog walker and a chicken feeder. Yes, I have chickens. And I am a student of the laws of the universe, and it was just all too much. My lifestyle was not reflecting the esoteric dream that I had romanticized and that I had built. I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't have the time to do it. And if I couldn't live it, how could I ask my clients to follow the path and expect them to see results? So I slowly but surely began to turn my life upside down. Again, if you know my story, you'll know that I've done this before. But most recently, I started to install the new, more feminine definition of success in my life. Less work, less live shows, less new designs, less late nights, more sleep, more time outside, more healthy food, more time with my family, more time for self-care, journaling, learning, connection, travel. How did this affect my life, do you think? I'm sure you can imagine the answer is very much so for the better on so many fronts. And the reason for that is because I exited a state of forcing things and entered into a state of flowing with things. I released the need to control my environment and entered into a state of trust that my environment will provide everything that I need when I need it, in trust of divine timing. As a serial perfectionist and patriarchal success junkie, this has sometimes been harder than you might think. For example, as part of my most recent business upheaval, I've started to focus a lot more on events and speaking as my core offering.
And so I partnered up with another energy worker to curate an incredible retreat that was actually supposed to be hosted this weekend over the autumn equinox. And what we created was truly just so magical. And the experience would have been life-changing for the attendees. And yet there was some sticky energy around it. People said they were definitely going to sign up, and then they systematically trailed off due to one extraordinary circumstance after another. We even had a cancellation of the deluxe suite, again, due to an extraordinary circumstance. Ultimately, my partner and I had to face the music. We needed to cancel the retreat in order to get the deposit, the money that we had invested in the venue back, in order to obviously avoid the financial loss associated with not filling the retreat. That was a jagged little pill to swallow, but I kept my energy in check. I remained in trust and in flow and ready for the next opportunity to open up for me. I knew in my heart that there was a very good reason that this didn't work out. And was I ever right? Our retreat was scheduled to be in Big Bear, California, where a massive wildfire has erupted, covering over 30,000 acres of surrounding forest, desecrating the air quality to very unhealthy levels, and blanketing the sky with soot and smoke. Our retreat would never have been possible. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. And if we had gone through with it, we would have lost our entire investment because that was part of the terms. Take that in for a second. Did the universe conspire for or against me when it didn't allow my retreat to get filled? I could have spiraled. I could have gone, oh, woe is me. I could have fell into the trap of dark energies and looked into my own shadows for evidence as to why I have failed. But instead, I kept facing in the light. I stayed in vibrational flow and trust and in love with my life and in gratitude for my circumstances. Instead of hosting a retreat next week, I find myself signed up for a little excursion of my own, as I will be embarking on a journey to Freedom Queen Live, which is gearing up to be a life-changing event for my own personal expansion. If I had hosted that retreat, I would not have had the bandwidth to embark on this journey, and I would have never met Claire, so I wouldn't be here speaking to you right now and sharing my story. So you can see it's all connected, intertwined, and in truth, utterly magical. And magic really does play a role in it all. If you surrender to the concept that everything is energy, and there are frequencies that expand your connection to the light or your highest self, and there are energies that pinch you off from your light, leaving you in dimmer circumstances, then you'll find yourself prioritizing your energy work because it measurably translates to a more fulfilling life, a life of true success and abundance. And what does true abundance look like? It looks like time with your loved ones, walks in nature, healthy nutrition, laughter in your heart, and dance in your soul. It looks like connection to your source, knowing the laws of the universe and the nature of the universe, and being in flow and being malleable and giving of yourself without expecting anything in return. It's syncing up with the phases of the moon and tending to your garden and vibing out with your crystals and having profound meditations and downloads from the universe, taking inspired action and believing in yourself, knowing that you are infinitely supported and that everything is lining up for you. So what I do is I teach you how to tap into the frequencies that allow the expansion of your connection to your higher self. I use this using a variety of energy tools and tactics that have been used by our ancestors deep into human history, as well as some techniques that have come through my personal deep connection to source energy. Crystals and sacred geometry have been fundamental to my progress, as these little beauties have the power to help guide us into a vibrational state that we seek. The geometries act as a reminder of the vibrational laws of the universe. And when we pair them up with a team of crystals, they can amplify our intentions to the universe like a lighthouse on a dark night. The universe responds to this light, and whenever you're near it, it can reassure your energetic groove towards your intentions. So, getting clarity on what your intentions are, therefore, is a profoundly important part of living a life of fulfillment. Your intentions are your navigation system to align with your highest self. The trick is that the way that you phrase your intentions, and I just don't mean the words that you use, but the energetic phrasing, the way that you feel about your intentions truly matters. In other words, having clarity on what you truly want will help you get there quicker. Sadly, clarity is one of the things that many of us struggle with. How do we even know what we truly want? I mean, okay, sure, it's easy to say, I want money, or I want love, or I want to lose weight. But why? Why do you want it? What will it do for you? How will the having of it change you? Is it safe for you to want those things? Do you have the energetic capacity to hold them? You may notice that I'm a little bit of a heavy-set girl. What you may not know is that I used to be much, much bigger, and have been for a very long time. Excuse me. There wasn't a moment in the, say, 10 years that I've been overweight that I didn't think I wish I was slimmer. And yet, in spite of all that, year after year, my weight incrementally went up without fail. Was it my intention to gain weight? Of course not. Was it my intention to lose weight? I wanted to, but yet the opposite was occurring. As an energy worker, you'd think I would have got a grip on this much, much sooner than I did. But I was so focused on abundance for my business that I wasn't prioritizing the energy work of my personal goals. I was on autopilot for all aspects of life that wasn't business related. And I was pushing up against my physical health. And as a result of that, I was drawing more of that energy towards me. The nature of the universe is magnetic. The universe doesn't work with negative phrasing or retractive phrasing, meaning it can't move backwards. The universe is always in a state of expansion, always moving forward. Where attention goes, energy flows. And since I was so down on myself over my physical appearance, I manifested more of that energy. I was creating it. As much as I hate to say it, it was me. I continued to operate in my sedentary and frankly toxic lifestyle. And so more of that became manifest in my life. When I finally got clarity that it wasn't just about losing weight, but about the lifestyle that complements the version of me that was slimmer, I was finally able to change the trajectory of my physical body towards the vision that I have for myself. I also used esoteric techniques to really anchor in my intentions once they became clear. And I did this so that I could use the momentum of the universe and the energy tools that are provided to us to go faster towards my goals. You can probably guess that I use crystals and sacred geometry to create a grid to hold my vibrational alignment with my intentions. But I also use the potent moment in time to hold a sacred ritual declaring my intention to the universe during the potent womb of the winter solstice. You see, the wheel of the year, meaning the time markers of the solstices and the equinoxes, are like little portals. They're like wormholes into the geometry, the fabric of the universe, the fabric of space and time. And we can harness these portals to accelerate the momentum of our desires. Each quarter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, each quarter has a special frequency that you can align with to follow the natural energies of the entire hemisphere of the planet. Your intentions become like a drop of water, making a groove in the sand. And the more drops of water in the same direction that come, the faster and wider the groove becomes, and the faster the water can flow. So, on the night of the winter solstice in 2023, I entered into a sacred ritual of devotion to myself. I did some journaling, selected special crystals that would align with the vibration of my intentions, and I vowed that in 2024, my number one priority would be me. I vowed that I would no longer put my business and my family's needs above my own. I vowed to fundamentally change my life to reflect the person who I wanted to become, and not maintain the status quo for the sake of money or status. I vowed that I would lose 30 pounds by the spring equinox, and I believed that I deserved this for myself. And I did it with ease, without drastic dieting, without excessive exercising. The weight started to fall off as I made minute lifestyle changes that reflected me prioritizing myself. And once the spring equinox came, I harnessed those energies of new beginnings, planting seeds, and I launched my first virtual workshop, which was a smashing success and transformed my business and showed me that I was capable of operating my business from a feminine place and doing things that bring me joy and allowing abundance to flow towards me just for being me, just for sharing who I am. And then when the summer solstice came along, I hosted a summit, much like this one, and there were 7 incredible speakers that talked about stepping into their power using different modalities. And then I launched another workshop for the summer solstice following that, which was also an incredible success. As we approach the autumn equinox this weekend, I'm preparing for my harvest season and to take stock of the seeds that I've sown and reflect on the progress that I've made this year. I am down 60 pounds since the winter solstice, and I'm up a new business model, new friendships, new routines, new experiences that include the things that I love most in the world. Time with my son, time in nature, in dance, and in magic. I have so much more to say about all this, but I know that we're running out of time. So I will just bring it back to you, my friend.
Oh, Aaliyah, that was so powerful, so beautiful. And I love how you harness the magic of crystals. I used to have a crystal business, so that was really, really fun to watch that part of your talk as well. Thank you so much. I know you've stepped in last minute and you've just turned up and given us your all. Aaliyah, can you please tell everyone a little bit about the magic that you help your people with and how they can come and get in your world?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I do have a metaphysical shop where I offer physical offerings, crystals and sacred geometry, crystal grids, and, sound healing.
Where are you based?
I'm in San Diego, California. Here's an example of one of my crystal grid offerings. And then I also offer workshops, and I have one-on-one offerings as well to work with me to create a crystal grid and get clear on your intentions over the course of a 1-week intensive, which is a very, very powerful way to work with me. And I also have an upcoming workshop called Crystal Clarity, which is going to be dropping a little bit later in mid-October. So stay tuned for that. But I do have a little offering I would like to offer your community if it's okay. I have, let me see, can I grab a link and drop it in the chat here? I have a little link here, and all you have to do is sign up for, oh dear, where is it?
You can pop it in when you come off, that's fine.
Okay, I'll pop it in when I come off then. So it's a link. All you have to do is sign up for my email list, and I will send over it's called a Merkaba activation meditation. And it's a way to get really centered and grounded into the energies that be in the present moment so that you can become in alignment with your highest self and allow the goodness to flow. And that's a special offering that I'm giving totally free to the community, just as a thank you for having me here.
Amazing. Aaliyah, thank you so much for stepping in, for taking to the stage and really sharing a beautiful, vulnerable story with us today.
Thank you. I'll look forward to watching the rest of the summit. I appreciate you.
See you soon. Mwah.
Mwah.
Guys, we are at the finale. We are at the finale. I cannot believe it. I'm feeling all of the things. How incredible have these last 3 days been together? If you haven't watched the other days yet, go and binge them as soon as we finish up. Not yet, after our last speaker, but go and binge them, because such powerful, transformative messages that we've heard from all walks of life, from all levels of success, from all seasons of business. But every speaker has said something that will resonate with you somehow in your life, in your work, in your mission, in your movement. Just find those golden threads. Find that one piece of gold dust that is just waiting for you to hear it in a different way. So are you ready for me to bring to the stage the last, but absolutely the not least? We are going out with a bang, believe me, speaker who we are going to bring today, and that is the incredible Jackie Dragone. Now, Jackie is a business and a sales coach on a mission to activate women all over the world to ignite their voice, to create a life that most people dream of living because they're too scared to even try, and to do through building a service-based business. Now let's bring her to the stage. Jackie!
Hello, hello. I am so excited to be here.
I am so excited that you are going to be closing us out, and I am going to give you the stage right now.
Yes. Well, I am so excited to be closing this out too, and to be here live with all of the audience here in the Dare to Share Summit. And this is really going to be a talk about self-worth and seeing your own value and coming back home to yourself and staying the course in your business and in your life, no matter what you are faced with. I definitely have had so much adversity come up against me since I started my business in 2020, but I'm going to touch on it a little bit. Mainly, I'm going to go into everything that I have had happen this year in 2024 up till this point. We still have 3.5 months to go. I'm not writing those off, but this has been one of the most challenging and transformative years that I have experienced yet in life and in business. And I want to take you behind the scenes of how I navigated all of that, how I almost quit, and how I'm still standing here after everything that has really been thrown in my lap. So I will tell you, I started my business in 2020 out of just really, I had no choice. We all know the pandemic hit. I lost my full-time job. I had a part-time side hustle business that I just immediately brought online, and I got it up and running, and I was seeing some success, and it was great. Throughout the first few years of me running my business, it was just like roadblock, 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 meaning a few months into starting my business, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. a very long, grueling battle. He won it, thank God, but it was like years of him battling it, losing 80 pounds almost, being on feeding tubes, lost all of his hair. It was brutal to watch him go through that, and then have the new business, which we all know when you're new to entrepreneurship, it's work, it's transformative, right? A couple years later, my husband suffered a stroke out of nowhere as a young, healthy man. He is thriving now, thank God. And then a year later, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So all of the most important people in my life were literally being faced with these really scary situations that, you know, when you're that close to somebody, it's in your life, it's affecting you, it's with you. Every step of the way in my business, I have had to commit to the vision no matter what. No matter what was going on around me, I had to commit, make the time, not make excuses, not let my emotions rule the show, and truly continue to show up as a leader in a leadership role, igniting my voice for what I wanted in my life and in my business. So this has been my journey. However, we got here to this year in 2024, and the entire idea this year, I said to myself when we entered 2024 that I was not going to enter and leave the same person. Now, we all know that you can say one thing and you have an expectation for it, and then that expectation turns into it turning out completely different than you ever saw. So this year I started out and I was like, every person in the world is going to know my name this year, 2024. Like, I am going for it all in big time. I'm ready to go. However, what I started to feel was a lot of shifts and changes and more things come up that were causing me to kind of fall off track or to feel like I was falling off path. So I'll just start from the very beginning. The beginning of this year, my husband and I, we had this incredible opportunity to go live in Mexico for a month. And you're probably like, all right, Jackie, well, why are you complaining about that? That sounds amazing. And it was. So we got this opportunity to go live in Mexico for a month. And when we went to live in Mexico for a month, I realized, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Big Leap, that I was almost instantaneously faced with this like upper limit problem where it's like you're in this moment where you've called in everything that you really wanted in life. And you're like, do I even deserve this? Like, is this okay? Can I hold this level of happiness? Like, can I hold this creation? Like, am I allowed to be this happy? Because it was such an amazing, amazing moment for us, right? To be able to do that, to be running our businesses, to be running my business now for 4 years full time and have the opportunity and the means to go live in a different country for a month just because I wanted to, because I didn't want to be in winter. What happened when we came home was just this feeling of like, can I ever do that again? Like, if you have found some level of success, you've probably experienced this feeling, and it's not talked about a lot, where it's like you instantly do something, you make a sale, you sign the client, you hit a new revenue goal, you sell a lot of people in your program. And then in our mind, there's this piece of us. It's like, can I hold that? Can I do that again? Was this a fluke? Am I able to truly do this? Right? There's this level of self-doubt for me personally that I've had to fight for my entire life. There's this level of inadequacy within me that I have had to face and shift and change my entire life. Maybe not everybody is this way, but for me, it's really been a journey and a lesson of self-worth, self-love, being adequate, being able to step fully into my power and into my full leadership. And it's this really weird juxtaposition, because even just you right now, if you're watching this and you don't really know me, you've probably already assumed that I am a leader, that I have it all together, all of these things. We see people one way. This is what I learned about myself. We see people one way, and then we almost forget that they're also having this like really raw human experience behind the scenes, right? You can't judge a book by its cover, right? There's more to everyone and their experience and their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions than meets the eye. And I think it's so important to bring up in entrepreneurship and in business ownership or in life in general, because it's like you look at someone and you're instantly comparing yourself like they have it better, and you never know. And at the end of the day, it's not about better or worse. It's not about any of that. It's really just about how you navigate your own life, your own self, ignite your own voice, and continue to lead. So we get back from Mexico, and I'm feeling like, okay, now we're back in real life. I really still want to be in Mexico. When can we go back? How can we go back? So we have this grand plan, my husband and I. And we're like, we're going to sell all of our belongings and move into an Airbnb. And then in a few months' time, because our lease renewal was up in Philadelphia, in a few months' time, we're going to go back to Mexico and we're going to live there. And this is our leap. Like, this is our time. So I'll tell you what happens next. It's still this year, 2024, and I'm hosting my first ever retreat with a business partner in Florida. So we go to the business retreat about a week and a half after I get back from Mexico. I turn right around, I get on a plane, I go to host the business retreat in Florida. At this business retreat, I was met with a situation that I had never experienced before. A woman who came into the retreat, it was, absolutely impossible to deal with, that caused all kinds of issues and problems. And when we came home from the retreat, long story short, this woman decided to create a complete hate campaign on social media against me for over a week. Now, this all sounds really petty, and I don't like to talk about it through that lens because it's like, whatever, like people are going to do what they're going to do. But I know that for my clients, a lot of them fear putting themselves out there or igniting their voice or trying new things or doing and saying what they want to do for this exact reason. Because somebody out there isn't going to like it and they might want to burn you at the stake for it. They might want to turn you into some kind of a villain or some kind of be the hero in their own story and use it against you. So this happened to me, and this was going on for a week. And honestly, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to navigate. I am not somebody that likes conflict. I'm very conflict adverse. And I also just don't really believe in engaging with craziness. So I just let it go on behind the scenes and I stayed quiet without really speaking up. I just wanted the whole thing to fizzle out. And there was a part of me that really wanted to be like, I'm unaffected by this. Like, this doesn't matter. What somebody else has to say about me doesn't matter. However, there was a wound in me that was open that I didn't know, of inadequacy and really finding my own voice and my own worth, that this really just took like a nail, a hammer, whatever you want to call it. It drove it into it, and it sent me into this spiral of questioning everything, if I'm being honest. I really believe in humanity. I think that this situation was the exception. I believe in humanity, and I think people at their core are good. We just have a lot of people that are unhealed in this world or unable to really navigate situations in like a right way. So it sent me down this spiral where, honestly, for a few months, it really threw me off in my business. I'm so passionate about helping people ignite their voice because I know what it's like to lose your way, to lose yourself, to lose your voice, and to question if you're capable or worth it. I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to fight your way out of that multiple times. So the week goes by, but I'm left with this feeling of doubt and fear, and like I'm constantly looking over my back for something else to be said about me or to come out about me, or for another client to message me and say, so-and-so did this about you again, just wanted you to know, or whatever it was, like this feeling of being like so vulnerable and exposed and like hated on. I've never had it. I didn't have it as a kid. Like, I never had been adult bullied, but it really got to me. I think I'll get to the part of the story where it really helped me find my power. But if I'm being honest and real and raw, what this summit is all about, at first, it had me lose myself. It had me lose myself a little bit. So here we are in our life. Okay. So now we're in March. This is my year where everything is going to change and everyone's going to know my name. And now I don't even want to show my face on the internet because I feel so ashamed and beaten down by the things that people were saying about me. It took me a lot of inner strength to rebuild up knowing who I am and knowing this sense of worth and confidence within me. It took a lot of inner strength to get back out there and remember that I'm actually really freaking incredible at what I do, and that other people, they don't really get a say over that. We're in the middle of the storm. We're in the middle of the storm. We're like a week into it, and we have to call the landlord and decide. are we going to like not resign the lease or are we going to sign it? And I said to my husband, listen, I'm not in a great headspace right now, but you need to go and call him and tell him we're not signing, because if you don't do it now, I'm going to overthink it. I'm going to talk ourselves out of it. And it's not, we're going to sign it. We're going to be here for another year. So my husband and he goes and he calls the landlord and he says, we're not re-signing. We have like a month and a half, like 6 weeks to figure out where we're going to go and live, because we didn't have the backup plan yet. We're just literally like, we're not signing this thing. Like, we'll be out. Tell us what day our lease ends. Remind us. We'll be out. So we don't sign it and we decide to be out. We go into Adventure Airbnb. So we go through Philadelphia. We're currently still in Philadelphia, and we look for like some sublets, some Airbnbs, all these potential places that we could go and live. Long story short, we end up in finding like the perfect Airbnb, which we're still in right now, that we can move into in the interim so that we're not locked into a year lease and we can move to Mexico. Right. So our plan is to go to Mexico basically like this week, September. This was the original plan, September 19th-ish. We're going to leave Philadelphia. We're going to go before it even gets a tiny bit cold, and we're going to get out of here. So we move. I'm still going through putting the pieces of honestly my heart and my soul back together, because it was like I started the year knowing that there was more depth that I wanted to bring to the table, and there was more heart that I wanted to bring to the table. I was already starting to put myself out there more in that way. And when I did that, I was instantly met with this like crash, this resistance, this thing that had manifested into my reality of literally like, I don't even want to blame anyone. It was the world saying, Jackie, are you going to see your worth or are you not? Are you going to put your worth and your validation on other people's perceptions and other people's experiences, or are you going to own it for yourself? Right? Really, truly, I believe that's why the situation happened to me. So we move out of the apartment, we come into the Airbnb, things are going okay. We're on our way. We're like, all right, everything's in storage. We sold all of our belongings. All that we own is in a 5x5 storage unit or like in the closet of this Airbnb, and it can fit in a suitcase. Like, that's it. We did it. We went for it. We get here. And all of a sudden, and I didn't expect this, this is a story of letting go, honestly, of other people's perceptions and of what you think is safe and secure and reality. Because all of these things will come to light when you do something like I did. And I didn't even expect this. All of a sudden, we're living in an Airbnb, and I'm in a business that for 3 months I was not running the way is normal to me, because it took me that long to put my pieces back together. So business is slower than normal, right? Business is slower than normal. That doesn't feel secure. We're living in this random Airbnb. We don't have any of our belongings. We only have 2.5, 3 months to live here. And then there's nowhere else to, like, where do we go after that? That doesn't feel secure, right? We're potentially leaving the country. That doesn't feel secure. I'm still putting myself back out there. That doesn't feel secure. It's like everything was literally ripped out from underneath of me. And I know that some of this was by choice, so I'm not complaining. And you just find yourself with yourself. It's just you, and that's it. And you're like, the environment that made me feel safe, the business that made me feel safe, the belongings that made me feel safe aren't here anymore. So what do I do in that moment? What do I do in that situation? So just when I thought I was healing from this, it sent me into, honestly, one of the darkest places I have ever been in my life, probably in July. One of the darkest holes I have ever felt in my life in July. I think that the darkness is a gift. I think the darkness brings more light. But it was a moment where I just started to question it all again. What am I really here to say and do? Why do things feel off? Why do things feel uneasy inside? What is it that I'm really here to bring to the table? What is it that I'm really here to give? So it was this moment of having to look at everything that I have built at this point and ask myself, why did you build this? Is this in alignment for you? Is this authentic to you? Not just my business, but my life and the way that I was choosing to live it and go about it. Everything was falling apart. Everything from underneath of me was coming out. I mean, I was looking at everything that I was ignoring basically in my life, the fact that I needed to work more on my own, finding my own voice, the fact that I needed to pay more attention to the money coming in and out because it was coming in so quick that it was going out so quick and I wasn't paying attention to it enough, right? The fact that I was letting other people's opinions and thoughts and words dictate me so much. All of these things that I was avoiding or not doing, I had to turn around and look at in a matter of months. Like everything just came crashing down. And I felt honestly depressed. I felt like, do I want to quit? Do I even want to do this anymore? Do I even have what it takes? I don't really know how things started to shift, but I think one day I was just like, enough is enough. Like, you were here to do incredible things. It is in the darkest of times. And if you're experiencing this, or if you're going through this in your heart and soul, right? You can still feel, that you were made for something, that you were made for something big. So within all of this, I never let go of that feeling. I let it be my shining light and I let it guide me forward. I started to change the spaces that I was in. I started to change my mentorship. I started to change the way I was coaching my clients. I started to dive even deeper into my own human design and my gene keys and just study myself more and get to know myself more. Because at the end of the day, what I do is help people with sales and strategy and business, and I'm really good at it. But the thing that is going to bring it to life is you igniting your voice and knowing who you are. This entire year has been one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, from an upper limit problem through severe depression, through being completely burned at the stake on the internet, from partnerships and business partnerships disappointing me. It has been so much to navigate. But the gift in all of it has truly been like this homecoming. Coming back home to the fullness of who I really am and how I want to show up. And what I believe I'm here to bring to this world, because I don't ever want to retire. I'm ready. I don't even know if the word is coach, but I'm here to be arm in arm with people and develop you into your fullest expression of your being for as long as I can, because that's where I thrive. To show you how to ignite your voice, to show you that you have the power inside of you. All of these decisions that we have been making, not everybody agrees with. But even being in the Airbnb, even though we're not on exactly the track we thought we would be on, even making this decision is me igniting my voice and saying, this is how I want to live my life. I want to go on an adventure. So I'm going to go on that adventure, even though it doesn't feel safe or normal, or even though other people question it. This is the business that I want to run. So if somebody wants to turn me, try to beat me down as hard as they can, let them. Because I will come back 10 times more powerful. So in the darkness, something shifted and I started to see a light, and I started to just show up again and take action and put one foot in front of the other. And it still feels clunky because I am still discovering the wholeness of myself and what I'm about to step into. But I know, because I do study human design and the gene keys, that my next phase in life, and it's written in my chart and in my astrology and in my words, is to have a powerful voice. I believe that I'm stepping into being the voice for people who have forgotten how to use their own, or who have found themselves in spaces or in situations where you've almost muted yourself accidentally, but you are ready to come back to life because you also have that heart, that soul, that light inside of you. And that's never stopped shining. Even if you're in a dark tunnel, there's that little glimmer of light in you, no matter what you face, no matter what is going on. So I started to put the pieces back together, and things started to shift and change. And the way that I look at things has shifted and changes, and the way that I'm showing up is shifting and changing. And I am going to come into the extreme fullness of myself, which is totally heart-led, but sassy, but direct, but no BS, but ready to go. Come with me, not look at me. Come with me. Let's go. So now we're in the Airbnb, and we started to look at life different. Started to look at business different, starting to create offers different, starting to work with people different, starting to ask more of my clients because they're holding back in their voice. from situations and circumstances like what I have faced or similar to what I have faced. And now I can guide them and talk them through that. We're here in our Airbnb until probably late January, early February. I think a big lesson in this is sometimes you need to give yourself space and let go of the expectation that you initially have, because you're going to get what you need. It's not always what you want. You're going to get what you need. And now we have 5 beautiful months. We were able to extend our stay. We have a beautiful space that we found in one of the best neighborhoods. And we're able to take the space to reinvent what it's going to look like. When I go next year in 2025 to live in Mexico, I am going to be going as one of the most whole, complete, full versions of myself. And if you're going to do something like go live in another country and leave everything behind, I'm already halfway there, right? I've already left a lot behind. I've let go. I've let go of old identities, of all of my belongings, of what it means to have a permanent home, of what it means to feel safe and secure. I've let go of all of that. Now it's time to let go of living in this country. It's time to step into something, like I said in my bio, that most people will only dream of because they're too afraid to do. Because doing it means that you're going to go through ups and downs. I say that entrepreneurship is really different than living like a life that was already put out there for you. Because life is already put out there for you with, I go to school, I go to college, I get a job, I get married, I buy a house, I have a kid, I buy a bigger house, I get promoted, etc. You're literally bowling with the guardrails or the bumpers up. When you go into entrepreneurship, there's no bumper, there's no roadmap, there's no guide. It is you. It is you. So it's so important that you stay connected to the intuition, to the wholeness of yourself, to your own voice, to your own vision, and that you let go of how it has to be and you guide yourself to what it is that you really want. This is igniting your voice. This is leadership. This is what it takes. This is the level of grit and resilience that you need to find success in this world and in this life. But I'm not just talking about basic success. I'm talking about the kind of success that will blow your mind. And I'm not just talking about money success. I'm talking about, is this really how I get to live my life success? So if I'm going to leave you with anything, it is that I want you to ignite your voice in your life and in your business. I want you to claim what you want and go after it no matter what happens around you. And I want you to realize that there's probably something or someone that you want to be or something that you want to do that you keep talking yourself out of. And I'm here to provoke you to stop doing that and to say, now's the time to go and own it and to do it. If I can make that decision in that much of a storm, you can do it. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to wrap up there.
Oh, Jackie, I love your talk so much. It resonates so much with my own journey as well. And, you know, we know this behind the scenes, but so beautiful, so powerful, so vulnerable. Jackie, what are you currently offering your clients at the moment? And what's the best way for them to get in your world?
Mm-hmm. I'm offering my membership, Ignite Your Voice. Yes. Yeah. So Ignite Your Voice is a membership where I'm going to guide you through how to really find your own voice in your content, in your copy, in your messaging, through your own experience, your life, your knowledge, all of that. And really give you the space to practice it and to say it out loud. And not only that, but just to step into the fullness of who you are in a space that feels really warm and heart-centered, but also absolutely no bullshit. Like, we're going for it.
I love that. And what's your preferred platform?
Yeah, Instagram at I am Jackie Dragon. You can find me there. You can also find me on the podcast at Becoming Wildly Successful. Is the podcast, so you can listen to the show. You can find me on Instagram. You can jump into Ignite Your Voice. Just shoot me a DM and come into the membership.
Amazing. Jackie, thank you so much for closing us out for the last and the final, but not the least, Dare to Share from the summit. Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. It was incredible.
You're most welcome. Bye for now. Wow, that is a wrap. Oh my gosh, that is a wrap. We have done 3 days. We have had 15 incredible speakers, 15 deep insights. No mirrors, no smoke, no facades. We have truly seen the human behind the perception of what we see success to be. And I hope, if anything, you have taken from this summit that we are all the same. Behind the scenes, behind all the success stories, behind all the flashy Instagram posts and the thought out reels, we're all humans. We're all here navigating exactly the same things. We all have the same fears. We all have the same thoughts, the same doubts, the same worries, the same concerns. But the only difference between you and them is how you lead yourself through it. That's it. We're all the same. And if all of these speakers can still go after their dreams, navigating all of the things that they've shared with you, then so can you. Believe it, because it's true. I hope that this Dare to Share Summit has inspired you, it's encouraged you, it's motivated you, it's empowered you, and most of all, that it's going to move you. That you are now not just going to go back to your daily life and doing things the same way, but you're going to implement something that you've learned through this last 3 days. Integrate, take action, because without action, nothing will change. But you are the change maker. You get to decide from now how the rest of your life is going to pan out. Are you going to take a risk like Jackie and say, I don't want this anymore, so I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to surrender to the unknown? Or are you going to keep playing it safe? I know which one you want to do. I know which one we all want to do. So let's do it together. Head over to my Instagram if you want to stay in touch and you want to keep track of the next summit, the next speaking opportunities. My Instagram is @ClareGarnettOfficial. I would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, how the speakers have inspired you. Reach out to every speaker whose message has landed with you. Let them know what impact it's had on you, because this is why we do it, right? This is why we show up for you. So I am going to love you and leave you until the next time. And remember to continue to dare to share. Goodbye for now.